Nashville, Tennessee, country music capital of the world, home of the Grand Ole Opry, where singers and dreamers come seeking stardom. Join me as we learn about the lives and careers of those who built this town on Classic Country Backstories. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Classic Country Backstories. I'm Colleen Gallagher. Today's vlog is about a country legend, a traditional country legend, and a great star, Miss Jean Shepard. Also with today's vlog, we will have more of our interview with Hawkshaw Hawkins Jr., son of Hawkshaw Hawkins and Jean Shepard. If you haven't seen our vlog on Hawkshaw Hawkins, please go back and watch it. Hawkshaw was a country legend and husband to Jean Shepard. Born Ollie Imogene Shepard, November 21st, 1933, in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. Jean was one of 10 children. She was raised in Visalia, California, near Bakersfield.
She was born in the Dust Bowl, right in the middle of Oklahoma when all that was going on. And she was about 2, I think, maybe when they headed to California, or maybe she was a little older than that. But they lived in a tent along the Colorado River. I believe that's where Mama might have been born, was in that tent. But the tent burnt down, and Mama always had a burn spot on her arm from that tent when she was a little bitty kid and that tent catching on fire. Wow. You talk about paying dues.
Jean is acknowledged as a pioneer in country music. As a teenager, she played upright bass for an all-female band formed in 1948.
She played in an all-girl band called the Melody Ranch Girls, and they would travel in one car, and there was like 5 or 6 of them, and Mama played the doghouse bass, and that was her pillow. That's what she used for a pillow going from town to town, was that doghouse bass.
I think her parents, they got a loan to get her that doghouse bass.
Yeah, they did. They borrowed money to do it. Now, my granddaddy, he walked an ass around a molasses mill for $0.25 a day, and they had a total, Mom's one of 10 children.
Oh, wow.
And he what she got for Christmas, I remember her telling me, was a piece of hard candy, an orange or an apple, and her older sister's shoes.
Jean was discovered by Hank Thompson. Thompson helped her get a contract with Capitol Records in 1952, with Ken Nelson as her producer. She recorded 4 songs on her first recording session, using such great musicians as Jimmy Bryant on guitar, Speedy West on steel guitar, Cliffy Stone, and Billy Strange, guitarists. Her first single for the label was Crying Steel Guitar Waltz. Shepard appeared on the charts when she recorded a duet with Ferlin Husky on May 19, 1953, A Dear John Letter. The song went to number 1 and became a pop hit, peaking at number 4 on Billboard's pop charts. The song held special significance for audiences as it was a powerful duet with recitation about a soldier in the Korean War. Jean was only 20 years old when she began recording with Ferlin Husky, therefore she was a minor. However, her parents signed for her to go on tour with him. In 1955, Jean joined the cast of ABC's Ozark Jubilee, where she performed for several years. She also recorded her first studio album titled Songs of a Love Affair, which were written by Jean Shepard herself. Jean's first solo top single was A Satisfied Mind. The song peaked at number 4 on Billboard's country chart. The same year, she also released Take Possession, which rose to number 13. Jean had another top 5 the same year with Beautiful Lies. On the B-side, I Thought of You peaked on the Billboard Top 10. Following a list of hit singles, Jean Shepard was invited to become a member of the Grand Ole Opry in November of 1955. At that time, there were not many female country stars. Kitty Wells and Minnie Pearl were about the only ones. Jean Shepard was a honky-tonk singer at a time when the Nashville sound was popular. She only had 2 singles to chart between 1956 and 1963. The 2 songs, I Want to Go Where No One Knows Me in 1958, and 1959's Have Heart Will Love, for which she earned the title of Cashbox Top Female Artist of 1959. On November 26, 1960, Jean Shepard married fellow Opry star Hawkshaw Hawkins at a public wedding after a show at the Forum Auditorium in Wichita, Kansas. Jean and Hawk traveled on the road until shortly before the birth of their first child. On December 7, 1961, Jean gave birth to Don Robin Hawkins. Donnie was named after close friends and country stars Don Gibson and Marty Robbins. Less than 3 years later, Hawkins died in a plane crash that also took the lives of Lloyd Cowboy Copus, Patsy Cline, and Patsy Cline's manager and pilot, Randy Hughes. Jean and Hawk had a 15-month-old son, and Jean was 8 months pregnant with their second child at the time of the tragedy. She gave birth to Harold Franklin Hawkins Jr. on April 8, 1963. After Hawk's death, Jean took time to be with her family and to grieve the loss of her husband, as well as take care of her children. According to her autobiography, Down Through the Years, she didn't go back to the Opry for several months and even talked about completely retiring from the music business.
My brother's name is Don Robin Hawkins. He's named after Don Gibson and Marty Robbins. And my mom was going to retire, and Marty went down and wrote a song called Two Little Boys. And he went to my mama and said, Jean, you've got to record this song. One more album, just record one more Capitol album for us. And mama went in and recorded the song. It went to number 22 in the country. Marty went down to BMI, signed me and my brother up as songwriters to that song. And it went to number 22 in the charts. So I was a year old and I had a top 25 record.
She decided if she would go back to the Opry one Saturday night just to test the waters. She hadn't been on stage without Hawk for 2 or 3 years. Friends and fellow Opry members were supportive, and the crowds were responsive when she returned. Jean Shepard was back. In 1964, once again, she rose to the top 10 of the Billboard charts with Second Fiddle to an Old Guitar. This began a string of hits and proved as a commercial comeback for Shepard. She had 2 more top 40 hits, A Tear Dropped By in 1964 and Someone's Gotta Cry in 1965. In 1966, she recorded a duet with Ray Pillow titled I'll Take the Dog. This song reached number 9 on the Billboard chart. This was followed by 2 solo hit singles the same year. They were If Teardrops Were Silver, which made it to the top 10. She went on to release Many Happy Hangovers to You, which made it to a top 15.
Of course, Mama would be on the road during the summers, all summer long, and she'd leave me there with her sister and their family. And then when she would come in at the end of the summer, she felt so guilty about leaving her sons with them that she'd pull up in Columbia down to farm on her bus, and she would roll out go-karts, bicycles, and that was our play day.
In 1967, Jean had 2 top 20 hits, which were the title track, Heart, We Did All We Could, and the single, Your Forevers Don't Last Very Long. She continued to release albums such as A Real Good Woman. Jean met Benny Birchfield in late 1966 at the DJ convention that was once held at Nashville's Andrew Jackson Hotel. Benny was singing with the Osborne brothers. Jean said Benny was a good singer, a good picker, had a lot of personality, and could be very funny and very wise. Jean and Benny began talking about their children, her 2 sons, and his 6 children, and found they had a lot in common. He eventually left the Osborne brothers show and went to work for Jean. They worked together for a few years, and they grew to love each other. On November 21st, 1968, Jean's 35th birthday and her 13-year anniversary at the Grand Ole Opry, Jean and Benny were married. Just over a year later, December 23rd, 1969, Jean gave birth to a son, Corey Howard Birchfield. With Corey's birth, that brought her and Benny's total family to 9 children. During 1969, Jean released the LP 7 Lonely Days, which produced another top 20 hit. Also released in '69 was Then He Touched Me, which made the top 10. Jean released 3 more hits in 1970, including a top 15, Another Lonely Night. And in 1971, she released one more top 40 hit, With His Hand in Mine. In the early 70s, Jean signed with United Artists Records. Her first single for the label was Slippin' Away, recorded in 1973, penned by country star and songwriter Bill Anderson.
I participated in fanfare from 1974 through 1983, and I saw your mom many times, signing autographs and posing for pictures and talking to her fans. You know, I even remember my sister was a member of her fan club and went to her and Benny's house. They had a breakfast. She made breakfast.
Yeah, that was up on the hill.
I couldn't believe that somebody, and she was at the top of her game
at
that point.
Yeah, she was. That's when we lived on the hill, and the band would come, Bill Anderson, and some of the other acts would come up, and Mama would just make, but we had another lady that raised us while Mama was out on the road. Her name was Kay Helfrich. Okay. And we call her Other Mama. We just lost Kay about a year ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Heartbreaking. No, it's okay. I love you, Kay. But Kay took care of us, and her Mama would make the big breakfast and stuff once a year. And Mama would also, about every other time she went to the Opry, she would bring sausage balls, and tons of sausage balls. And everybody just loved Mama's sausage balls.
They loved to see her coming. She'd have something for them to
with
eat.
a big old thing of them. I mean, a big salad bowl full of them.
Jean was known as a traditionalist. Today's country is not country, and I'm very adamant about that, she told the Tennessean in 2015. I'll tell anybody who'll listen, and some of those who don't want to listen, I'll tell them anyway. Country music today isn't genuine.
One of the times that I did talk to your mom was at one of the Rope Awards, and she did tell me at the time. I said, Miss Jean, we have a real country band, a traditional country band in Missouri, and I said, and I love traditional country music. She's like, don't get me started.
Yes.
She said, we'll be here all night.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
Don't get me started.
Jean went on to have 3 more top 20 hits in 1974. In 1975, she recorded an album of songs written by Bill Anderson, titled Poor Sweet Baby, and 10 more Bill Anderson songs. Shepard recorded 2 more albums in 1975 and 1976. They were titled I'm a Believer and Mercy Ain't Love Good. And then she left the label in 1976.
One of the things that always tickled me was that she would put that hand behind her back and she would keep time.
Yeah.
Now, I never heard her break meter.
No.
She was always perfectly on time.
On.
Did she do that to direct the band?
Well, I think she was using that for the tempo when the drummer was going too slow or too fast.
Yes.
I think she only used one finger in that instance.
I'd see that behind, and I thought,
But
her
yeah,
tempo's too perfect for her to be worrying about
It's a tempo thing.
Yeah.
Greg Huggins was her drummer for years and years, and she remembers the middle finger, but he always went by what her fingers were doing because she wanted that song to be into that tempo. It's funny, my daughter's going to do our Next Generation this year.
Oh, that's great.
And when she does Slipping Away, she's going to turn around to the crowd and do that, and that place will go crazy, man. They
absolutely will.
They loved Mama.
Between 1977 and 1978, Jean Shepard recorded with the GRT label, producing more songs on the Billboard country charts. Jean did not record again until 1981. She released a final studio album titled Dear John, which included remakes of several of her hits, including Dear John Letter and Slippin' Away, as well as a new tune, Too Many Rivers. Jean continued to perform at the Grand Ole Opry and to tour through the U.S. and overseas. In 2005, she celebrated 50 years at the Opry. In 2011, she was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, along with songwriters Bobby Braddock and Oklahoma native Reba McEntire. In 2014, Jean's autobiography, Jean Shepard, Down Through the Years, was published. On November 21st, 2015, Jean celebrated 60 years at the Grand Ole Opry, along with her 82nd birthday and her 47th wedding anniversary to Benny Birchfield. She retired from the Grand Ole Opry that night. On September 25, 2016, Jean Shepard passed away from complications of Parkinson's disease. She was 82 years old. She was laid to rest at the Hendersonville Memorial Gardens in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Jean Shepard was a true legend who forged a way for many women in the country music industry. The roles of women were much different when Jean began her career than they are today. We have her to thank for being the voice for women in the music business. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode of Classic Country Backstories. If you did, please like and subscribe to our channel, all right? Until next time, take care, God bless, and we'll see you later.